Hi guys. So I'm back again with Diamond Dave. Hi Diamond Dave.
I'm doing all right, Dana. How you doing?
Good.
Okay.
Just trying to figure out my damn hair.
I feel you.
No, you don't. You don't have hair, so you don't
Yeah, I
gotta
feel
worry
you. Yeah,
about
I feel you.
it. um, that was a good discussion we had on Beyonce tickets.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that and picking your brain as far as buying tickets for a girlfriend or whatever. Um, I don't think I'm gonna go, but whatever.
So you done changed up already?
Well, he done changed up because
Okay. I said that was
I
fast. We just talked about it like 3 days ago.
I think he got whiff of the price and he's like, listen, even if I know somebody that give me tickets, they're gonna want to sell it to me.
Yeah.
So, anybody that get, may know someone that throw tickets. I don't think nobody's throwing tickets at anybody. They're gonna still sell those tickets, right?
Yeah.
So
So what we'll do is we'll think positive because I know you doing your thing. So as you get the network and know more people, you may be able to get one at another venue. So it may not be the New York venue, but it may be that you got to catch her at another venue.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
if that's the case in another state, I will fly.
That's what I'm
But
saying. Because she
those are
going all over the country.
right, but that's like getting a golden egg, honey. And nobody is not going. If they get the golden egg, they're not going to come off the golden egg.
You never know. You never know how it's gonna go because some of those tickets gonna be bought from the corporate side.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Well, today's show is not about Beyonce. We're going to switch it up, but we are going to talk about single women, single ladies.
Okay.
So this article, I just found it interesting by way of the New York Post. Actually, let me just share it. Let's see. Okay, so single women are outpacing men in home ownership.
Yeah.
All the single ladies are buying property. Indeed, a recent study found that single women are outpacing single men in home ownership. This new trend has come as a shock to many and is bound to have long term effects on the financial market. Let me just do my thing here. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, So, single women own roughly 10.7 million homes in America compared to 8.1 million owned by single men, according to the recent analysts from the LendingTree that looked at the 2021 census. The surprising development has spread nearly across the country, with single women being more likely to own a home in 48 of the 50 states, all but North and South Dakota. So, what are your thoughts on that?
It was a really good article, and I looked through it, and I wish they would have given some more context to like where they kind of pulled the data from, and then who were those single women, because are they able to get a home because they were able to engage in a government program?
Mhm.
Are they able to get a home because of family wealth? Like,
Mhm,
how did
mhm.
they sample and pick those particular women out of the society? How did they come up with that particular pool of that population of women that they found own more homes than women? I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying I wish they could have gave us some more context to the population that they were looking at.
Right. Well, it did say that that number
Uh-huh.
was taking pre-pandemic.
Okay.
So they don't know what the number's going to look like post-pandemic. So those numbers were taken up to the year, I think it said 2018.
Okay. That's still
Um,
relatively recent though.
right. So it says
Yeah.
this development was first noted by LendingTree in 2018. The experts are curious to see the full effect of the pandemic's impact on home buying when more recent census is released. So, what do you think those numbers going to look like pre and post pandemic? Because it just shows that yeah, women were doing the damn thing, buying real estate, living in it, or um investment property. So, and I wonder because it did say somewhere during the pandemic that women took more of a harder hit than men.
Yeah.
So, what do you think those numbers going to look like post pandemic?
I mean, I think they may not be as high because we know that since the pandemic, real estate values have really gone up.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that people's income hasn't necessarily gone up, right? So we
Right.
want to kind of try to figure out how your real estate markets have impacted the buying,
Mm-hmm.
because we know during the pandemic a lot of people were trying to buy and they couldn't because the prices were too high. Those prices have not gone down yet, especially like the market I'm in, Florida. Prices are still relatively high in the southeast.
Right.
So they may have stabilized some. Hopefully nobody lost their property, but we got to see how people have been able to accumulate more properties during these past 2 to 3 years.
Okay. Well, let me just pull up this graph here because it shows, it says sex segregated ownership.
Yeah.
So it just shows the in the dark green to dark green is where home owned by single women, and the lighter green into the yellow are homes owned by single men.
Mhm.
So Florida, um the
Louisiana.
DMV area, DC, Maryland, even New Jersey and New York going up. What is this here? What is this Rhode? No, that's not Rhode Island. Vermont, maybe some New Hampshire,
Mhm.
Massachusetts. Women are fairly doing well. What's this? Louisiana,
Yeah.
South Carolina. So a lot of single women in Florida are homeowners.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I said, I wish I could dig deeper into the data, because one of the biggest challenges people have in Florida right now is buying a house. So are those women widowers, or did they get them as a result of divorces? Because one of the biggest challenges in Florida right now is being able to get any property.
But see, that's now. And so
Yeah.
this is pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic, yeah. So that's like I said. So like I said, is I want to see how the post-pandemic numbers kind of fall out, because the
Mhm.
housing market in Florida went crazy.
Okay, so but why? So let's just think of pre-pandemic.
Yes, ma'am.
Why all of a sudden did the women why do we have this boom in women home ownership pre pandemic? And what are the men doing? What is going on with the men?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. We would have to look deeper into the data and try to figure out what are the reasons. So, were the women homeowners because they're widowers? Did they get them in divorces? Were
Hmm.
they able to participate in certain programs that are targeted towards single women?
Hmm.
Because one thing we do know is that we live in a country where the divorce rate is around 50%. So there's a lot of single people in our society. We talk about single, we mean that they're not married.
Right.
So then how did they get those properties? Did they get them before they were married? Did they get them after they were married? So I wish that data gave a little bit more context to who that population was
Hmm.
and how they were able to get those particular properties.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, it's good to see that single women are taking care of themselves and
Yeah.
investing in themselves. Let me just read a little bit more of this. It says women make an average of 83.1 cents for every dollar a man makes, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But women are continuing to make strides in other capacities. More women are enrolling and graduating from college than men. Some are defying the pay gap by out earning men in the United States. I mean, in 22 states across the country. So some women are out earning men in 22 states. I wonder what states they are and what they're doing and what the men are not doing. Buying a home is often touted as one of the best financial investments a person can make. An average American homeowner who purchased a home in 2011 accumulated $225,000 in housing wealth by 2021. That
Yeah,
was
definitely.
interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but it did say here that despite the increasing rates of single women signing into their dream home, the majority of owner occupied homes is in the United States belong to couples. So couples are out buying single men and women, and of course, because that's two combined
Exactly. Incomes.
incomes, right?
Exactly.
And there's usually people who want to start a family, so they buy a home to raise kids. Um, this all comes as interest rates on mortgages are at an all-time high after years of millennials struggling to become homeowners. I noticed that it didn't give an age of these single women buying homes.
Yeah, it didn't. And we gotta, because I think, like you said before, it's single women, single men, but it's not, they're separated from married people. So married people still are the majority. They still have the highest amount of home ownership.
Mhm.
Because, and I'm gonna say this, and I think this is something that's not really talked about. There's not a lot of outreach for single men. So if
Okay.
you're a single man in this society, you pretty much are on your own. So
Mm.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges that a lot of single men may deal with, is that if you're a single man, there's not, because often you don't have children that you're with. So there's not a lot of programs to help you in any capacity from an economic standpoint.
Okay.
So that's why I said I wish we could dig deep into the data, because like, when I was coming up, there was a lot of programs aimed at women that had children that were not married.
Right.
And so they were able to take advantage of those and become economically mobile. And if you was a man, you just had to figure it out.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
That makes sense. And that's probably why. It's probably more grants or more programs designed for women, and they take advantage of it, but there's nothing for men.
Yeah, exactly.
And in later shows, I think we need to dig deeper in that, because I think we'll find, especially when we come talking about Black people, Black men compared to Black women, and the resources are more allocated towards Black women than Black men. So
yeah, I mean, it's true. I've seen that, because I went to a vocational school, and we have programs. If you was a woman and you come from a certain income background, and you had children, there was a lot of programs that you could tap into. If you was a man, you had some based on income, but they also wouldn't be based on the fact that you had children, because you didn't have children considered being in your house.
Right. I mean, but even if you married that woman, it would be no programs for you either. Yeah. So, and you're in the Atlanta area. Do you see more women being homeowners than the men? Do you see that, or business owners?
You do see a lot of women that are economically mobile. They're trying to move up, because that's very much the tone of this particular city. But I wouldn't say it's single women are beating out single men. I would say pretty much everybody is under a lot of economic pressure because of the expenses in the city.
Okay.
So I think that's something that a lot of people aren't really necessarily willing to talk about. And we might go into the next segment of the show, is that even though I make a lot of money, I have to spend a lot of the money just to maintain my lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah. And Atlanta's really that's a big part of living in Atlanta.
So wait a minute. Yeah. I want to make sure I know I want to play a video for one, but all right. So this is what I want to talk about next. So living paycheck to paycheck, getting into that. I mean, that is nothing new, but they're really starting. So the thing is, it says millions of Americans earning over $100K are living paycheck to paycheck. So it's not just a regular person making $50,000 a year living paycheck to paycheck. These are six-figure earners living paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
And that's kind of odd, because usually those are the ones that are able to maintain and save and and blossom and get ahead. Let me just play this clip.
Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, including a large share of people making more than $100,000 per year. This is according to a new study from LendingClub and Payments.com. 64% of Americans said they lived paycheck to paycheck at the end of last year, with an influx of high earners entering the category in 2022. In fact, more than half of those who said they are living paycheck to paycheck make above or around $100,000 per year, which is a jump of 9% since December.
All right, I want to pause that. Jeez. Right. So more than half of Americans earning six-figure salaries admitted they were living paycheck to paycheck last year, as high inflation slammed households, according to an alarming study. This article was released January 31st of this year. So by the end of December, 51% of Americans with $100,000 or more in annual income said they live paycheck to paycheck. The share rose 9% compared to one year earlier, when 42% of six-figure earners made the same admission. 64% of U.S. consumers, the equivalent of 166 million Americans, said they were living on a razor-thin budget each month. That was up 61%, or about 9.3 million compared to the previous year's findings. Okay, what is going on with six-figure people?
I mean, I just think, often with some of us, as we make more money, we spend more money. But then also, I think that based on what part of the country that you live in, $100,000 don't spend the same everywhere you go.
Okay.
And so I think certain markets pay more, but it also costs more to live there. So if you make $100,000, you live in New York City, that's really not a lot of money. But if you make $100,000, you live in Orlando, that's way more money. But New York City pays more than Orlando.
Right, but it's at a point now. Sometimes it equals out, balanced out, but it's not been balancing out.
But see, it's not balanced. That's what I'm saying, but it doesn't really balance out because it costs more to live in NY.
Right.
So see what I'm saying? So what I would want to do is make $100,000 and live in Orlando. But I wouldn't probably want to make $250,000 and live in New York City because I'm gonna end up spending it all just to live there.
Right.
So that's what I think the issue is. I think people are making more, but kind of where they live. And then also you add in inflation, you got to spend it all just to live.
Now, you know how usually Jerome makes the announcement inflation is going up.
Yeah.
Or, they go live and say it, but it was very quiet that inflation went up again. Isn't it 7%? I know it was.
It was 6.5 last. So he said in his last meeting, I'll probably talk about that later this week. He says he feels like there is going down, but the problem is that it can pop back up later this year.
But I thought they just increased it like point something.
They increased the rate 0.5 again, but there's a lot of factors in the world that can raise inflation. And so I think what we're dealing with is that they can't really stop it because of just how the world is set up now.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody just adjusts to it. But we talked about before, kind of based on what part of the country you live in, it determines how much money you're going to have to spend to live. So it's not always how much money you make, it's how much does it cost to live where you're trying to live.
Right. It says the effects of inflation are eating into every American's wallet. And as Fed's efforts to curb inflation drive up the cost of debt, we are seeing near record numbers of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. Right. Let me share this because I want to quickly go into the eggs phenomena.
Yeah, I feel you.
Like, what is this? Even my father brought it to my attention. Like, this was trending, right? When we're talking about eggs, like eggs are high as hell.
Yep.
Eggs are high. So it also said in an article, 90% of pay increases wiped out by higher prices. So people are getting pay increases, but 90% of those raises, you don't feel it. You don't see it because you can't get ahead because the prices are equally going up along with raises, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you're not getting a raise and prices are going up, you're below
behind a ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is this? So what is this? The share of Americans who said they were having trouble covering their bills jumped to 24% in December, up 2% compared to the same month 1 year earlier. Let me just say this too, as far as inflation. They said that inflation increased by 500% in a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. Not saying that inflation is 500%, but it just
500% increase.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, what is going on with eggs?
So I know a guy that does he's a trucker. He said his transportation issues is what's rising the price of eggs.
Okay.
So that's his thing. So he said his transportation issues, but the problem is that now that you have to adjust your food budget, all food's higher. So if you was a normal egg eater, and also if you a meat eater, you got to adjust your food budget. And one of the biggest challenges, and I think people don't understand this because we're not educated, and you just talked about it. If inflation is high, it doesn't really matter how much money you make because all your money is being eaten up by inflation. So if your pay increase doesn't outpace inflation, you're behind the 8 ball. And even if you make a lot of money, because a lot of times people's lifestyle is based on how much money they make.
Right.
So if I'm making 100,000 in 2016 and I'm living good, and then inflation starts to spike up, all of a sudden now I can't maintain my lifestyle. And also because of the high rate of the interest rate goes up, my debt costs go up now. So it costs me more to service my debt, which means more money is being taken out of my pocket.
So, all right. Solutions.
I tell people you got to figure out how to make some more money. It's because I don't think they're telling us that they're going to try to get inflation down to 2%. I don't think that happens.
Wait, not 2% inflation, but just decrease it by 2%.
No, they're saying they want inflation to be 2%.
Oh, I would love. When is that?
I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
It's not going to happen this year.
No, it's probably won't happen this year. They got it maybe happening in 2025. So we got CPI inflation at around 6.5%. They're trying to get that down to 2%. We got the federal funds rate at around 4.5%. Normally, the federal funds rate has to be higher than the rate of inflation.
Right.
So the rate of inflation still is higher than the federal funds rate. I would tell everybody the solution is got to make some more money, because nobody's coming to save you. What's going to happen, I think, is that people are going to get so used to paying the high prices, they're going to just get used to it. They're going to get desensitized to it. Which
means what? That the prices won't go down if we get
they will not go down
and actually pay it?
Yes, ma'am. Because the rate of inflation really is an increase in prices. If prices stay flat, the inflation rate goes down. So the prices really don't have to go down. They just can't keep going up.
Well, I want the prices, especially gas, because gas is not even going down.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Let me just read this. Last week, data released by the Commerce Department showed a decline in personal spending in December, a sign that Americans are cutting back on purchases due to the impact of inflation. Americans will be watching closely this week as the Federal Reserve makes its decision on another interest rate hike. Feds officially have signaled rate hikes will continue until inflation is addressed, despite the slow economy. So
yeah, they say that. But let's see, because like I said, is that I don't think they ever get it back down to 2%.
So if people stop spending, wouldn't the prices go down?
But what's gonna make them stop spending? Because what we believe is gonna make them stop spending is they're gonna be unemployed.
Okay.
So that's the problem. So yeah, we can fix inflation if we just make a whole bunch of people come unemployed, so then they can't spend any money because they don't have nothing coming in.
Oh, so that's a solution to lower inflation right now is unemployment.
Yeah, well, that's what they talk about. So one of the challenges that we have is we have a very tight employment market. And so high employment can drive more inflation, because if I need to get more people on the job, I got to pay them more, which means what I got to charge more.
Right.
And then we start chasing our tail. So one of the ways to create low inflation is to have a recession.
Okay.
So that's why I tell people the only solution is you got to make more money, because the way they're managing this economy, they're never going to think about your individual solution.
Right.
So then if you get caught on the downside of it, then you just got to figure it out.
And for me, I would say make more money. Yes, that is number one solution. Listen, people are going to have to start combining incomes, like
definitely,
whether you have a roommate or whether you not even so much get married, just you and your partner live together, or you and your family, move back home with family, so everybody could save and invest.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you call that? Communal living, something.
Yeah, exactly. So, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Right. Because we definitely live in a society. For years we were taught everybody got to have their own spot, and that's very expensive.
Right.
But if everybody could come together, we, like you said, we can save up money, we can start investing, we can start stacking our money, because we don't have all our money leaving our household.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, Diamond Dave.
No problem. Thank you.
Oh, let me put this up.
Okay, so appreciate it, Dana. So that's the highest paid part-time job in the world, Stock Options Academy. We call it the www.highestpaid.online. And just what we were talking about, you're working a 9 to 5, you're not making the money that you think you desire. You're tired of the fact that you got to spend a lot of time away from your family to make the money that you desire. And you don't like the fact that even though eggs are almost $10 a dozen, you're not making any more money. And we figured out how to solve that problem by teaching people how to leverage the options market to potentially bring more money into their household. It's not an overnight solution. It's not a gimmick. It's not a trick. But what we're going to do is try to teach you how to leverage the financial markets to drive more income into your family, to solve a lot of these problems. We have been successful with a lot of different students, but you got to be willing to apply yourself and be consistent in putting your best foot forward.
And you were just talking about making more money, and this is something people can do to make more money, right?
Definitely. And even if they don't do this, I want to encourage them. They have to do something, because the way this economy is going to leave a lot of people behind. And if you get left behind, no president, nobody's going to come pick you up.
Right.
So I want people to really understand, like, that's what's really going on out here.
All right. Well, thank you, Diamond Dave.
I appreciate it.
All right. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Definitely.
Dana with the data. Dana with the data.